What is up, everybody, and welcome into the last Hoop State Game Day show
Yeah.
of the high school season. Here, coming to you live from the Hoop State Championship here at Combine Academy. And in just about an hour, Winston-Salem Christian is going to take on Combine. And what a weekend of basketball it has been, Rod. Let's start off the show by recapping the two games last night. We'll start off with the 1-of-1 Prep Winston-Salem Christian game. I think we have an unofficial record for free throws attempted in a Hoop State Championship game. It was a battle between, I think, two similar teams, but I think at the end of the day, Winston-Salem's experience is what helped them win that game late.
Right, absolutely. Two very physical teams, probably the two most physical teams in the entire Hoop State. Very great game. 1-on-1, they showed a lot of grit and a lot of moxie by staying in that game, even when the game got into double figures kind of early in the fourth quarter. They did a good job of fighting back and cutting the lead into a two-possession game late. So much credit to those guys. But Winston-Salem Christian, man, the name of the game this week for them has just been their length defensively. They just bothered every team they played with their length in terms of playing that 2-3 zone, stretching it out, putting their hands out, covering up all those gaps. So when you have a guy like Kobe George at the top, who's probably one of the best on-ball defenders in the region, period, then you have a guy like Isaiah Washington with good length as well up top. They can create a lot of havoc. And then on your backside, you got Lewis Walker, you got Connie, you got Troy. Those guys they're just long, and Torrey Austin as well too. So very balanced team. I mean, great win. Lewis Walker had it going yesterday.
Yeah.
I always say with Lewis is if Winston-Salem Christian's at their best when he's providing an offensive spark for them, and he did that yesterday.
Yeah, the offense for Winston-Salem Christian feels like a grit and grind at times, and it's sparked by defensively. I want to talk about what that win means to them in a second. Real quick on 1-of-1. For them, first year in the event, what does it kind of mean for them moving forward to have the experience to win a game and really come close in getting to the championship?
If they can keep this core together, which I believe they will, because they're year round with AAU as well.
Yeah.
This team will win a Hoop State championship or two in the near future.
Yeah.
They just have the pieces. They shoot the ball really well. They play hard, and they have no quit in them. So nothing to hang their head about. Coach Jackson, Coach McGinnis, and the rest of that staff. My guy Nick Johnson. Nothing to hang your head about this year. You guys had a great, amazing year, and like I posted today, like when they posted their in the year post, I was like, they're the future.
Yeah, so. For sure, for sure. For Winston-Salem Christian and Coach Lowe, Coach Lowe won a Hoop State championship around 3 years ago on this floor. And the last 2 years have been tough between the injury stuff and the roster continuity. It's been difficult for them to kind of get to this point. But this year it all really came together, and now they have an opportunity to play for a Hoop State championship. Would be the first in the program's history and the second for Coach Lowe.
Right. So I mean, one thing about Coach Antonio that we know is he's always going to be prepared to have his guys play, whether he has the team like he has now or if he has teams like in years past. So that's just a credit to just the stability he's brought within the Winston-Salem Christian program. Not only that program, but what he did with Moravian as well too. So, just being able to see a guy like Coach Lowe in another championship game, it's good for us. It's good for the Hoop State because, in the grand scheme of things, he's probably not the one that everybody thinks of when you think of a high-profile coach in the Hoop State, but he consistently year in and year out, he gets it done. So it's exciting to see them here and to see if they can cap off a special year.
Definitely, and they have a real chance today. That defense is suffocating, and if they're able to kind of grit and grind it out offensively and find a way, they could very easily get this done against Combine Academy, who knocked off Word of God in a very, very intense affair last night. It was a close game. Word of God had the lead early, and then Combine found a way to escape it late, make some plays down the stretch. Trenton Flowers probably had his best game that I've seen him play in a Combine jersey. Give me your breakdown for that one.
Man, when you commit to a college and you get that pressure off of you, you just feel free and you feel like I can just go be myself again. And you probably can tell with Trent, this is a big decision. He's a 5-star prospect.
Been a high-profile kid for
a long time. And exactly. So for him, that's a big decision. So, and you saw last night that he was locked in. He was free. He was playing. He was happy. He was good. And that was 5-star, top 10, top 15 recruit Trenton Flowers we saw in front of his future coaches Nolan Smith and Kenny Payne were here as well too. So amazing performance. But for Combine, man, that was a good win. Silas wasn't 100%, and you could see it kind of affected his performance. One thing I'll say, in terms of Word of God. First of all, nothing to hang your head about. You guys had a great year. You had a great run at OTE. You've done a lot of amazing thing. Last night I think emotions kind of got the best of them. In terms of in the game. With the officiating and things like that. What I would think I always say about Word of God is when the ball is hot and it's popping with Word of God, their hard to beat. In that first quarter, they really took it to Combine because of the ball was moving and things of that nature. They kind of got away from that a little bit, and then in the second half, Combine they do a good job defensively of kind of pushing up on the shooters a little, making life tougher for Isaiah Coleman and Dre as well too. So
yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
And kind of speak into the bigger picture for Word of Gods here before we touch on the bigger picture on Combine side. It felt like the program returned to a state of relevance that we haven't seen in a while. How do you think they can build on that moving forward in years to come?
No, absolutely. And for me, I've been a part of Word of God's program. I was kind of, sort of, but to see it, back in terms of that. In that relevancy, I think it's a good thing. Coach Byron, what he's doing, those guys, and Alex and D-Pad as well too. They did a great job, those guys this year. So it's gonna be interesting to see. They lose a lot.
They do.
They lose a whole lot. But
they had a couple pieces coming back that are really good, but they do lose a lot.
They lose a lot. So it's gonna be interesting to see how they replace those guys. I mean, you're replacing nationally ranked kids. So that's gonna be a whole lot. It's gonna be interesting to see. But being that they're in the OTE league and things like that, I can only imagine they'll have a few 4 or 5 stars floating around Rock Quarry Road.
Yeah, for sure. They always find their way there somehow.
Absolutely.
And for Combine and for Coach Wright, you have an opportunity to play. Now, for Coach Wright in his 3rd straight Hoop State Championship, and now he's at Combine now after leaving Liberty Heights, to where he can get his first, and this team can get their first. They've had guys come up close in this, and now they have an opportunity to do it. What would it mean for Combine to get this done and go for the three-peat?
For Combine, I think championships are the standard here. So in terms of the program, Combine Academy in itself, that's the standard they expect to win. But for Mike Wright, this is the one that he's always won. And I have a lot of conversations with Mike, all the time. And one thing he always talks about is, I got to get a Hoop State championship. To Mike, it feels like a sense of validation for him if he can get that Hoop State championship. So I think, in terms of being, his home court, final game of the season, you got your 2 seniors. You're ready to head out, as well. It's lining up for him. So again, Combine's in a really good place. They're a nationally ranked team. I think the challenge this year for Mike Wright was, losing a great coach like Jeff McGinnis is a lot, and you have to be able to find somebody that can not only keep the program where they were, but also elevate the program to another level. I think Mike accomplished both things this year. Win, lose, or draw today, like they had a great year. They stayed in the top 25 literally from day one. So much credit to Mike Wright. But I think I think for him this is this validation for him, like to kind of get that monkey off his back.
For sure. And when you look at the matchup between these two teams, I think the biggest key is, can Colin Tanner and Trenton Flowers maintain the level of shot making that they've put forward to keep that Winston-Salem Christian zone honest? Because if not, it's going to be tough for them to score. How big of a key do you think that is for Flowers and Tanner to have it going?
Absolutely. Colin Tanner's probably been the MVP of this tournament.
Yep.
No, if there was an MVP, it's probably Colin Tanner. He's played really well both games. But I think it's going to be interesting to see if Winston-Salem Christian comes out in a zone versus Combine, because with Combine. But just because, Combine does such a great job of keeping the floor space, the floor balance. Not only you have a guy like, Colin and Trenton, you also have a guy like Rakis who can make shots as well. And then when those guys are making shots, now those driving lanes are open for Silas. And we know Silas can get in the teeth of defense better than almost any guard in the country.
Yeah.
Paint touches and things like that. So that's going to be a kind of an interesting chess match to see who does what, The first time they played, that game went back and forth. Obviously Winston-Salem Christian won on a buzzer beater at the wall. It was kind of hard to judge that game because both teams came off of like a heartbreaking game the day before. So it was just kind of like, it's hard to get up for another game, even though it's a really good opponent. So I think today we'll get a better game.
It was a weird game too.
It was. It really was.
Both teams had a 15-minute stretch where it felt like they couldn't score.
Yeah.
And these are 2 top 25 teams.
Right.
These are teams that have consistently been in the rankings all year long, have several marquee wins.
Right.
They've both had slip-ups along the way, but at the same time, they've both put themselves in the position for this game.
Right.
It's going to be interesting. I'm intrigued to see what kind of defense Mike tries to throw at Winston-Salem Christian. We've seen Combine play man. We've seen them play zone. What are they going to do? Winston-Salem Christian has been a little more consistent. And I think the other thing for Combine is, who's going to be that secondary ball handler when they try to get the ball out of Silas Demery's hands, and can they take care of the ball?
I agree.
If they're able to find that, and Flowers and Rakis and Colin are able to kind of make shots with relative consistency, I like their chances. If not, it's going to be tough for them.
One thing I will say, too, is I don't think Combine goes zone today because it's hard to box out in the zone. And one thing we know about Winston-Salem Christian is when those shots on the rim, those guys are kind of playing volleyball on the rim. offensive rebounding. So it's going to be hard for them to kind of play a zone. So my personal opinion, I think they're going to come out in the man-to-man. So
Yeah.
we'll see how that goes. So.
Yeah, we definitely will. Excited for this one. Raquise Passmore, Trenton Flowers, Silas Demery, Colin Tanner taking on Isaiah Washington, Kobe George, Torrey Alston, the whole crew. There are a lot of really high-level players in this game. Looks like producer Webb is firing his mic up. You have a question for us?
Yeah, I just want to I want to ask you guys a couple questions that I think people might be interested in. One, watching Combine all week, all season long, Silas Demery has been the catalyst for this team, right? Like, they go off of how he goes, and this week has not been the case. Colin Tanner has stepped up in a big way. Trenton Flowers seems like he's peaking at the right time. Raquise is hitting what I would say are a lot of
Next-level
shots.
Next level shots.
With those three guys leading the way, and you haven't, whether it be because of the ankle or whatever else, like Silas hasn't really been there yet. Have you guys been surprised by that? And do you think that Silas is going to have to figure out a way to implement himself more tonight for them to be successful? Kind of how are y'all gauging those top four guys at Combine after seeing them all week?
I think they did a good job of being shot makers. In the game of basketball is all based on confidence. And like I spoke about earlier, a guy like Trenton's free now. So the way he played last night, he wasn't pressing, he wasn't forcing the issue. The game just came naturally to him. When Trenton Flowers is playing that well, you have to account for that. The way Colin's shooting the ball, like, you have to account for that. So they're taking that pressure off of Silas, which is much needed now. And no disrespect in the opening game, they didn't need Silas to opening game. They could have really sat him out the rest of that game. That's the honest to God truth, and that's no disrespect. But, you know, those guys are being shot makers, especially last night, especially in that second half. That really proved big. Now today, it's a much taller task, you know. So I want to say, you know, hopefully they can continue that shot making. But they're going to need Silas to be Silas today to win this championship.
Yeah, for sure. And if you were to tell me that Silas had kind of played the way he did, I mean, it's not like he was bad, but he wasn't truly dominant like we've seen him be. If you were to tell me he had the game that he did last night against Word of God, and you were to tell me they win, I would have probably like, well, other guys must have had to really step up, and that's exactly what happened. So if Silas isn't going to be the typical, you know, when Silas is 100% dominant, getting to the basket, just being an absolute animal, getting to the rim and making things happen, it's going to be tough. But Flowers and Raquise and Tanner have really stepped up. Their confidence is probably radiant high, and they have a chance. But Silas is going to have to be really good, and I think the biggest thing for Silas is today, he doesn't need to necessarily force the issue with the drives, with that zone, with all the sides underneath. He needs to make sure the train stays on the tracks and he's getting his guys the ball in spots where they're comfortable. And I think he's more than capable of that, whether he's on a gimpy ankle or not a gimpy ankle.
Right.
But we'll see. And I'm sure Antonio Lowe is coming up with a game plan to exploit whatever is going on.
And then the last thing I'll ask, and I'll leave you all alone. So we've all been at all Hoop State championships, right? The first year we did it here. The last 2 years we've been at Rock Hill dealing with the COVID stuff. How much better has this event been from an atmosphere standpoint, the way the players and the coaches are reacting? Like, just talk to the people a little bit about bringing this back to the home gyms. You can announce where we'll be next year or already, but the fact that, like, we got to do this in small gyms where it matters versus those big gyms, I think the vibe here has been even better than it was year one, if y'all would just speak to that a little bit.
It has been unreal. And I think it's kind of surpassed my expectations in a lot of ways because these schools don't have large student bodies. They're not necessarily the programs that like a Leesville or a Millbrook or a Myers Park or a North Meck where you're bringing students out. But at the same time, the people that love basketball in this state, we got people coming from every corner of the state to come see this because they know that these are where the best players are playing.
Absolutely.
And I think that because of the fact that this has been a consistent thing going, we can make the announcement for the next 2 years. We'll be at Winston-Salem Christian next year and Word of God the year after that, a little rotation. I think it's going to bring this event to different area codes and expose it to a new audience each and every year. And I think it's going to provide something special. And the intensity in this event this weekend has been special to see.
Absolutely. I mean, just having that traditional high school environment, that's what it felt like last night when Word of God and Combine played.
Yeah.
Like, it just felt like a traditional high school game. Being that we've come off from the state championships in the public school in the last weekend and things like that, seeing those huge crowds. Now, obviously, it wasn't that big of a crowd here, but in terms of having those crowds here and like just rooting for a team and things like that, it's just made for a good basketball. Like, Rock Hill's an amazing facility, amazing place, but you just can't recreate.
For high school?
Right.
Yeah.
You just some environments you just can't recreate, you know. So just being back here in the local gyms, I love it.
Yeah, no, that's awesome for sure. And I think that's a great way to wrap this show up. We are really, really excited to bring this game to you live here at 5 o'clock. Combine Academy, Winston-Salem Christian. It's been all chalk. The top seeds, the top two seeds in the state are going at it.
Yep.
You got anything else, Rod?
So I really want to say this here before we leave. This is our last our show for the year. We started November 18th in Wilson, North Carolina, in 252 tip-off. It's March 18th, and we're finishing up our last game here. This is year 4 for us, man, and we really appreciate all the love and the support. Everybody, you know, we put a lot of man hours into this, man, to make sure that everything goes well, man. And this year was an amazing year. Like, you know, kids are being discovered, man. Kids are getting scholarships. You know, we've had a lot of ups and downs, but we really love and appreciate you guys. And we would love to continue to bring, you know, the content that we do here at the Hoop State Network.
Yeah, for sure. It's been a special season. We've seen a lot of guys become stars over the course of this year. And you look at the way that a lot of these kids have grown. It's been fun tracking their growth and stuff like that. The storylines in the state continue to get better and better every single year. And we appreciate that you guys allow us to bring them to you every time we put on these headsets. So we appreciate that, and we'll see you guys soon. 5 p.m. hoopstatelive.com. We out.
For the love, we in this, we ain't gotta make cash from it. Get the rock to Simmons, guaranteed he make that bucket. Money in the bank, kick it to Ray. His shot like Allen, wanna see the footage, Donnie and Max. They got the cameras and ride automatic, can't let this guy shoot. But they can dump it down to pasta for them inside scoops. And Webb holds it all together, won't find a glue trace. Keep your shoes laced if you pull up on the Hoop State.